going to be a war for the people, the good people. The good people, it's going to be a war between all the top teams in a contest to see who can get the best people that are within SHR. There are a lot of good people within SHR, and people are hard to come by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are California's Kevin Harvick does it. Straight naked right there. You're the man.
Welcome to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour, presented by NASCAR on Fox. I'm Kevin Harvick. She's Kaitlyn Vincie, and he's Mamba Smith.
Yes, live fast, Mr. Live Fast today.
Live fast, Glory Days shirt.
704.
Yeah.
On the side, I love that.
Yeah, this is a local shirt.
Local
really?
shirt,
Is
not
that like
the ice cream place.
No, it's Glory Days.
Glory Days. What is that?
They're apparel. They do hats and shirts.
Oh, really?
And shorts and all types of stuff. You should go
Cool.
check them out.
Yeah.
Over in South End.
There
Do I
you
have
go.
to drive there?
Yeah, you can Uber.
Can they deliver it on
They
Amazon?
can deliver on
Check it out and send it back?
Amazon.
Yeah, but you need to go in and experience the whole shop, you know?
Yeah,
Like a
there
pop
you
in.
go.
Cool.
Hey. All right, brand new episode on tap. We appreciate everyone who's been following along. Make sure you go to YouTube, give us a 5-star review, leave a word that Kevin might say on the air that we will not miss, that we will make sure we hear it. No. Oh, come on. I mean, can you explain this?
Yeah, I mean, so closers. I don't know if you guys heard the word this week.
Which one?
We had 2 this week.
2.
We had precipice and we had flabbergasted. And Kevin snuck them by everyone.
By
Let's hear about it.
everyone.
By everyone.
Hey, Ty Gibbs, Kevin and Clint up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yep, sounds like trouble.
Well, this is trouble, buddy, and you are trouble. You did a great job in qualifying. You got that first pit stall. You've been right on the precipice of getting that first win. So how are you going to make that happen tonight?
Yeah, I think it's going to be make sure I don't make any mistakes, stay after it the whole night. It's a long race,
So I don't know what to say.
I feel really bad because I went up to Kevin when he first got here. I was like, you didn't say the words this week because we all missed it. And I was at the track, so I missed the beginning of the broadcast on TV, which was when the Ty Gibbs one happened. Sorry, my friend.
Let's be honest. Kaitlyn doesn't give us much grief, and she's a little timid sometimes to just jump right in there and kind of just punch you in the gut. Today she came in and tried to punch me in the gut.
I would
and
never.
it was totally bitter in the ass. That's what happened today. So
This is what I get for-
we were discussing why I didn't use my word, and I'm looking at them both. I'm like, did you guys not watch the race? I did it right off the bat with Ty Gibbs.
So that's the
in
problem.
the in-car interview.
We were on pit road. Like we were part
Yeah.
of the festivities.
Yeah.
Getting run over by
Festivities.
Secret Service and the Dawn down on pit road.
The Dawn.
So the best part about the word this week, we had this debate in the production meeting about precipice and how the right context to use it. And it can be used in 2 different ways. You can be on the brink of greatness or on the edge of falling off a cliff or disaster, however you want to put it. And so we said, all right, I'm going to use it in the in-car and I'm going to use it on Ty Gibbs because now Ty and myself have this, every time I get on the radio to say, hey, Ty, we're getting ready to come to you. You got a copy? And it's like, oh, great. I got to do this again. And so he's being sarcastic. I know Ty pretty well. And he's become, every time I turn the radio onto his channel and have to do the interview. Every time I do it, it's more fun because he gets to be more interactive with it. And this week he was totally bantering back and forth. So he does his bantering before we actually do the filmed piece of it. Okay. So he just completely destroys himself right off the bat. And so anyway, I gave him some grief and talked about everything, but I used the word right off the bat in the initial sentence of the in-car interview.
My bad.
Closers, I hope you guys heard it. I didn't, but I'm proud of you.
Only 2 more chances. Only 2 more races that we get to hear.
Harvick Happy
the
Pod.
fun,
Make sure you get those in.
Fun
keep
words.
DMing them. DMing them in.
Well, it was a good weekend, though, and you mentioned it. All of the patriotism and the display of support for our servicemen and women. It's always such an incredible weekend. There's a lot of Secret Service were there, and I heard you guys had an interaction with them as well.
Well, my friend and I in the booth decided that...
Who's your friend?
Clint Boyer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we decided that we were going to go out and introduce ourselves to the president and shake his hand during a commercial because he was on the roof and we were in the booth. So he said, what the heck? Clint's influence is pretty heavy, but I agreed. And I said, well, you go first. So I sent him first. And Clint goes bebopping out of the booth, down the steps, and just starts to go towards towards Trump. And I mean, there's Secret Service everywhere, and they all but threw him off the roof.
I bet.
Whoa. no, explain. Hey, I'm over here in this. We just came over to say hi. And luckily,
Yeah, they don't care who he is.
yeah, they
Like, who's this Boomhauer
Who's
guy?
this
up here?
guy?
I happened to follow Clint, and somebody said, "Oh no, he's in the booth with Clint." So Clint was kind of the fall guy.
There you go.
Going over to shake Trump's hand, but we went over and shook his hand, and he was super nice. And Richard Childress was explaining everything that was going on to him, and he had a headset on and totally into watching the race. But I had no idea that he used to come and sit on the pit box with Richard
I
when
didn't know
Earnhardt
that
was
either.
racing, because he's a race fan, but he was an Earnhardt fan.
Oh.
So he would come sit on the pit box with Richard Childress and watch races before anybody
before
even knew who he was.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
You know what's interesting to me?
What's
the
that?
route that they brought him through down pit road.
That was.
So the cars are backed up to the outside pit wall.
Mhm.
Okay. So they come down and you could walk. It was like 2 people wide that you could walk. And they bring him down. And obviously he has all this Secret Service, everything. They are like, hey, you guys got to back up. Or you guys
There's
gotta
nowhere
move
to
back.
go.
I'm like, broski,
It's crammed
we are
full of people. at this
we
point.
are elbows deep here. We can't move anywhere else. And they were aggressively
Yeah.
pushing through.
Well, I can tell you, there's a big difference between a former or running president and a sitting president, because when George Bush came, I don't remember the year, but it was mid 2000s, whenever that was. They didn't let anybody on pit road. It
Really?
was the drivers, a couple people from NASCAR, Secret Service, and the president. And it was the greatest pre-race show I've ever been involved with in my life, because there was not one person
Yeah.
on pit road. And he came and talked to the drivers and gave the command, I believe, that day. But President Bush, he was a cool one too. When we went to the White House. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
you,
you're
but
good.
When we went to the White House that year, after whoever won the championship, they used to take all 10 of us, and we went into the Oval Office, and he explained every piece of art, where his desk came from, why he chose it. Every piece of art. Some of it was from the Smithsonian, different museums,
cool.
around the country, and why he picked the carpet, and they get to decorate everything themselves. They finally had to tell him, because he was so personable with us that he had to stop. So they had to tell the president that he couldn't talk to us anymore because he was out of time.
He
and
was so
and
into it.
We needed to leave, but it was pretty neat because he's just like one of the guys.
That is one of the really cool things, that the winning cup team of the championship gets to go to the White House.
Used to
and
be the top 10.
visit with the president.
Used to take everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, now it's just one only.
Would you rather that? Or would you rather just?
I had fun with the other guys, but it's a lot more personal when you're with your team.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like when I went with Obama, we were able to. I mean, we hung out he talked to me like we'd known each other for 20 years, because
That's
we were
awesome.
standing there by ourselves. All the teams were outside. We got to talking about our kids and just everything
normal
that was
stuff.
going on. Best story about the Obama trip was Brian France brought his kids, and they were, I don't know, they were probably like 6 or 7 years old. We were in the map room in the White House, and
It's a good story.
his kids kept jumping on these chairs, and the Secret Service was like, hey, you need to have your kids stop jumping on the chairs. And they told him like 2 times. Well, the 3rd time they came back and they said, look, if your kids don't stop jumping on the chairs, we're throwing you out. So he
wow.
had to really take charge of his kids at that point. But they were George Washington's chairs. So they weren't even meant to be sat on. They were just sitting there, and his kids were over there jumping on George Washington's chairs
Yeah.
in the map room. So
There's definitely etiquette when it comes to being in the White House
I
and
would
what you
think
can
so.
and can't
Yeah.
do.
Well,
got away with it twice.
Yeah, got away with it twice. Maybe Christopher Bell will be the one visiting the White House this year if he's the champion in the Cup Series. He got the win on Sunday night. This was a interesting chain of events here, because obviously got the race started normal, then the rain and the weather moved in. Ultimately, NASCAR decided they were not going to be able to finish the race because of humidity and different reasonings that they cited. It was not Fox's decision.
Yeah, well, first off, let's get something straight, people.
Yep, here we go.
We don't decide when they cancel the race. We were sitting up there like the rest of you on social media, not with nothing else to do, trying to wondering to ourselves, what in the hell are they doing? Why haven't we canceled the race? When are we going to cancel the race? Are we going to run the race? What should we do now? Do we have any dinner? Or
Do we have any?
We have nothing to do with canceling the race. NASCAR is in charge. We may have an opinion of how we're going to do things going forward. We ran an hour, almost 2 hour rainfill show here in this studio We sat in the booth and did rain fill. Mike Joy would come. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. That we decided at Fox to cancel the race.
People want to
We're
blame us
along for the
everything.
ride like everybody else, wondering what the hell's going on.
Thank you,
So,
Kevin, for clarifying that for
Yeah.
anyone who
And
had a question
best case
about
scenario
it.
is we were going to start by 2 a.m. So I don't even know where we were going, but it was going to be early in the morning, late at night, however you want to put it. But I can promise you, it was not us, because we wound up sitting in a suite eating ice cream, waiting for things to wonder what was going to happen. The next thing I know, I'm eating my ice cream, and they tell us that we're going home.
Well, here's the other thing that everyone always forgets. Like, most of the people working concessions, the police or AMR, right?
Safety
I-
team.
Safety team.
yeah.
Like, everybody's they have a window of what they can work.
Yes.
Like, the teams can fire up and go racing.
This
but
was a lot of rain, too.
there was a lot of rain.
Yeah.
Like, if people time out at some point. And
But we don't have anything to do with it.
No.
No.
Right?
Like NASCAR race control is deciding what to do. We might have to decide. They will eventually tell us, which is what happened when we were given our final remarks that the race was over and we were going off the air. They, in the middle of those comments, is when they were releasing it. So they had communicated to us what they were going to do, but everything in between there, we're like everybody else. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah, Fox can't control the weather as much as people might think.
Bob Pockrass might.
We
be.
don't-
We're definitely not canceling races. So
No. Yeah.
stop, people.
Okay, so Christopher Bell got the win, as I mentioned. This was a good shot in the arm for this team because he even said it post-race. They've had a rough 8 weeks.
It has been a rough 8 weeks. And when you look back at those 8 weeks, I think there was still the thing that I always would tell people when we would get in a slump like this, where you just have bad finishes and pit stops and crashing and things happening. When you've got cars fast like his, you're okay with it, right? You know you're going to get out of that slump. If your car's not fast and things aren't going good and people are fighting and whatever's happening in the middle of your team, it is tough because you know that you're also looking for speed while you're in that slump. Those guys weren't looking for speed. And he led 90-some laps, I think actually 90 laps this weekend, and ran up in the front the whole race and had a good solid weekend. Now, if we run the rest of the race, does he win? I don't know. But he was in the front all night. And I think finally for those guys, they had some good fortune, put everything together and kept themselves in the mix all night and were able to capitalize on a moment when they canceled the race. So I felt bad for him afterwards because every time they would talk about something from Victory Lane, we were still in the booth. They hadn't sent us home early.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were already back at your house, probably.
Yeah. No, hadn't gone home. Still in the booth.
Still there.
And the crowd was not pleased. They were booing the crap out of him in Victory Lane. I felt bad for him because he didn't really do anything wrong.
No, that's a bit surprising.
Yeah, I think they were probably just mad that the racing was.
Yeah.
over.
They were mad.
Because
Yeah.
that was one of the best crowds I've seen at Charlotte. Maybe
It was sold out.
it was. I was out in the parking lot with folks. They were having a great time. You looked up from the infield and just like the sea of people, and everyone was having fun. The infield was fun. But to your point, like Christopher led, race high 90 laps. At least someone didn't steal. I like it when I don't really love it when someone steals one when it comes to weather. Like you can kind of sometimes you see someone jump from like 15th because of weather and they do like a 2-tire or don't stop.
Right.
And like it's kind of cool, but it's also good when the person that's leading a lot of the race, dominating the race, finished out in front when the weather comes in. So
Yeah, to Kevin's point, he had led a lot of laps, so he was very much in the mix. Now, the other biggest story I would say from the weekend was Kyle Larson. We've been talking about this a lot over the weeks, running the double with the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600. Respectable finish. Obviously had a speeding penalty, which took away his chances probably with a top 5. But this was fun to watch. He made it back to Charlotte in time, but not quite because then the weather arrived and it was just a bad.
I saw on social media the other, his post of the reaction of everything that he said, and I just feel bad for Kyle because it doesn't sound like he had any fun because I think he took the burden upon himself to go out and perform and do all the things, which he's going to naturally do that. And I know he had that burden, but it just seems like he was much more vocal about the pressure that was on himself and things that he was feeling than he usually is. And, but I think for me, Kyle Larson is Kyle Larson, man. You just go do the things that you're doing and you can't control the rain. You're going to make some mistakes here and there. Nobody around you is going to think any different. You're already doing things that are just out of this world spectacular. jumping in an Indy car, never wrecked it, ran in the front of the pack, had an opportunity to show his talents, just doing what he did, showing up. And then, he was going to come back to Charlotte and have a chance to finish that race out. Obviously it rained and he wasn't able to start the race. Justin Allgaier did a great job.
Yes, he did.
I think he was running 13th.
Yeah.
And, he figured out the car, and Cliff kept talking to him, and, they kept getting better and better and better. But, they had a fast car. It was an unfortunate circumstance for Kyle all around, though,
Right.
just with everything that all the effort and time that they put into it. But
It is unfortunate.
I hope he does
yeah.
it again so he can actually do everything.
I'm sure that he will. I mean, talking with people at Hendrick Motorsports yesterday that actually did the double with him, they were like, pretty much worst case scenario. What could have gone wrong went wrong. And apparently the rain has followed him because you updated us
Now he's in Iowa and it's raining again.
for the test.
So
Poor guy.
and it's just a lot like Christopher Bell, right? He goes through those 8 weeks where nothing seems to go right, crashes, pit stop, whatever, he's making mistakes, whatever those things are, nothing's going your way. And when you get in those slumps, you just feel like the world's against you. And, are you doing something wrong? And then all of a sudden, one day you wake up and things go your way and you win a race. And it seems like it all never happened.
But how much cross-pollination do you think there was in terms of the attention that Kyle Larson brought both to the Indy 500, bringing a lot of NASCAR fans went out to watch him, and then vice versa of how his performance over there helped NASCAR?
I think Kyle doing both the dirt fans. I think are the big ones that show up to watch Kyle Larson do other things. Like that's his real fan base, and I think they got a lot. Like IndyCar got a lot of those fans that don't normally probably watch IndyCar, as well as obviously the NASCAR fans. So it was great, and I keep hearing murmurs that more guys want to do the double. I know Kyle Busch was actively talking about doing it.
Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney. I find it interesting, and I don't think. And Kevin, you tell me what you think about this. I don't think that this would go very well if an IndyCar driver tried to do the double from their side to our side versus our guys going from our side to theirs.
I would agree, and I think the Kyle Larson effect is very much. It's in effect. I think when you look at the IndyCar souvenir sales, I read that he was the top seller. Yeah, I'm sure he was the top seller at the NASCAR race, or if not, right there at the top. But when you look at the TV ratings from All-Star Race, when you look at the TV ratings for the Indy 500, you see the effect that Kyle Larson has on people and viewership and because of the things that he was doing. And I hope Kyle realizes the impact that he has on people. I know he's down on himself for making the mistake and, all the things that happen with the weather, but gosh, it's just, whether he missed the race in Charlotte or not, it's just such a feat to be able to do the things that he did at the level that he's doing them at.
Right.
But to your question, I don't think an IndyCar guy comes over here and does what Kyle Larson does from an IndyCar to a stock car. I think that Scott McLaughlin should be
the first guy
in a stock car on a road course for Roger Penske. I don't know why they're holding him back. It doesn't make any sense to me, especially when they get towards the end of the year or take those breaks, because I want Kyle Larson going to IndyCar to race. I want Kyle Larson to show up at the 24 Hours of Daytona. I want Scott McLaughlin to come over here and race a stock car. I want those guys to go back and forth and all know each other, because that's really what made racing great, was when Mario Andretti and AJ Foyt and all the stock car guys would all interact with each other. They all showed up at the Indy 500. They show up at the Coke 600. They show up at the 24 Hours of Daytona. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the IndyCar guys. I want to see the NASCAR guys, the high-level guys. I'm just saying the highest level of guys on each side race each other's cars on occasion, not all the time. And I want to see them at the 24 Hours of Daytona. I want to see them at Le Mans. I want to see all those things happen, because I think it makes racing better. And that's what I think this situation did.
Did you ever have any interest yourself in doing some of those other marquee events?
Not really. I was always such a stock car guy. And I think in today's world with the new car, it opens the door a lot for guys outside of the stock car world to come in and have a better chance to be competitive. Like with SVG, I think for him to come over and do what he did, he has to get used to a lot of things in the Xfinity car because of the way that the car yaws out and skews out, the way that it moves around. The Cup car doesn't do that anymore, so it feels more like a sports car than what it used to, and you don't have to. We could always beat all the sports car, Indy car guys because the car always felt so strange with the way that you had to drive it to go fast on an oval, and the way it would wheel hop with the 4-speed transmission and the rear end and everything that we used to run in the car. It was pretty much a specialized situation to be competitive.
Okay. Well, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I was just going to say, I was just going to say, I'm not saying it's Kevin's fault that
everything's my fault
that the rain happened, but I did ask you,
Kevin or Fox.
I did ask you if the All-Star rain counted towards our counter, and it didn't. But then you brought it over to the 600 anyway. So now
we raced.
Yeah, but it's been affected. It was affected Sunday.
He really wants that dinner at Steak 48.
Now it's 5 races. Just saying. You said it wasn't going to happen anymore, and it just happened back-to-back weeks. So I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Whatever.
Mama's here to keep you on top of that. Okay, so
dinner.
Larson was a big story. Also, one of the interesting stories during the race was between Chris Buescher and Denny Hamlin. This whole pit road debacle thing. It was awesome, and it produced some great radio exchanges as well between Chris Gabehart and Denny Hamlin. But can you explain more about this? Because some people seem a little confused, like how this issue kept reoccurring.
Well, the pit stalls are short in Charlotte. So Denny Hamlin was running in front of Chris Buescher, and Chris Buescher was running in front of John Hunter Nemechek. And the way that those cars are lined up on pit road, Denny Hamlin comes in first, and his tire changers are at his right front tire. Well, Chris Buescher has to go around that. So he pulls in at this angle. Denny Hamlin's in his pit box straight. And so John Hunter Nemechek would come around Chris Buescher at even more of an angle because he had to go around his rear tire changer and his front changer, and he would wind up at more of an angle than Chris Buescher. So the key to the situation, I mean, Denny Hamlin backed his stall up a little bit, but they really needed to back him up more, which I think they finally did. But these cars are very difficult to turn in and out of the pit stalls because they just don't turn very well like the old cars. So it's hard to get in there, cut it to the left, and then cut it back to the right and get straighter. That's why you see these cars so angled in the pit box, because when they're going slow, they don't turn very good. And so anyway, they were running in the extreme worst order they could possibly run. And Chris Buescher wound up in front of Denny Hamlin. Chris wound up running pretty well, but he wound up in front of Denny Hamlin because he wrecked in practice. Blew a left rear tire, took his car back to the shop. Well, he was the very last guy to pick a pit stall, and that was the stall
he was
that was
left with
in front of Denny Hamlin.
Worst case scenario.
So they were going at it on the radio, and finally, one point, Chris Gabehart told Denny Hamlin, he said, "Buddy, if I say anything else, we're going to have a fight.
There's going to be a situation
because I have pushed it that far." So I don't know what else to tell you.
I was disappointed, though, because with the weather delay, they actually had a chance to get out and talk in person. Like, this would never normally happen. So RFK posted a video of Buescher and Denny all kind of talking with their crew chiefs on pit road to sort this out. Maybe they would have had a game plan that we could have seen in action if we'd gone back racing, but we didn't have that luxury.
There was really only one option, though. Right?
Yeah.
The only option was for Hamlin to back up further.
It was only affecting him, really.
Yeah, because the cars it affected all of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, Buescher and Hamlin had to back up pretty much every time that they got into their pit stall. So
I think it's interesting because Denny had this happen to him. Maybe it was Kansas. Austin Hill was in front of him, and they had a mix-up. Like, Austin obviously was running further back than Denny. He comes in late and kind of blocks Denny. And so it was a similar situation. I don't know why it happened to him in the last couple of weeks.
Well, it kept us entertained.
It did.
Yeah.
I liked hearing Chris Gabehart get fired up. That never happens.
He was so fired up.
Yeah, love that. Love the passion. Let's see here. The other story I had written down was Ryan Blaney with an early exit. He was running in the top 10 for most of the race prior to this happening. What'd you see here out of this whole situation?
Well, they left the wheel loose, it looks like to me, and then it sawed the wheel in half, and then the wheel fell off, and he banged into the wall. And so
perfect.
Bad day.
This is the aftermath of what you're seeing here. But Blaney, I mean, they were going to be in the top 10. I felt like pretty solid. Played a good strategy there and wound up getting the track position that they needed, but ultimately in the end didn't play out for them all night and wound up with a bad finish.
A lot of pit crews making mistakes though.
I think that's just where we live now. I think, you know, trying to get those mid to high 8-second pit stops, right? If you don't try to make those pit stops, somebody else is going to. And we see a lot more mistakes week in and week out because of how fast the pit stops are. And they're on the edge of disaster every freaking time that they pit. And so we see those mistakes and everybody knows that they have to get everything that they can, whether it's changing the tires in the pit stall, rolling the tire, whatever that is, you have to be right on the edge of disaster. And, you know, we hear the drivers talk about erring to the side when they're racing or driving of being too aggressive. And I think that's where the pit crews are as well, because they have to make these fast pit stops and their margin of error is slim.
Everyone's pushing it. The teams are pushing it. The pit crew, they're pushing it. Drivers on track. Speaking of a move that was wild, off of turn 4, William Byron puts it 3 wide between Ty Gibbs and on the bottom of Ty Gibbs and Tyler Reddick through the kisses the grass.
Grass.
All 4.
Oh, it's all 4?
All 4. Watch
okay,
this.
Here it is. All right.
Watch this.
Off the wall.
They bang into each other and he just all 4.
So that, I don't think, unless you drive cars on the speed, like when you touch the grass like that, it is not, you know
Had to
you're.
buzz the tires, don't you think?
Yeah. Right, yeah. Had to. But he just kept going like nothing happened. And those boys, I mean, it was a good video for Monster.
Yeah,
they had the Monster car and the Beast car. But
you guys in the booth freaked out in that moment. Like there was a lot of excitement.
So
I mean, he never even thought about it.
Didn't think about lifting.
And that is synthetic turf now. One of our sponsors, Fields Inc., they put that ball field in. Gosh, I don't even know how many years
8
ago
years
it was
ago,
now.
maybe?
And yeah. And it's from a driver's perspective, I think that synthetic turf is great because you could get away with stuff like that and it doesn't rip the front of your car off. Some of the worst wrecks I've ever had are from going through the grass when the splitter grabs in and you're not ready for it. And it is the worst whiplash you've ever had in your life.
Oh, wow.
So that grass being too tall, even though it looks great, that turf should be everywhere.
Yeah, I think so. That's what caught Chris Buescher. What was it, like last year or 2 years ago? And
he rolled over.
He rolled over because it caught the grass.
So big moment for William Byron. Also a good weekend for Josh Berry. And I would like to give him a formal shout out once again for his excellent performance on pit road of the Drivers Only broadcast. Did you know that he came up with that?
What?
Really?
You did, didn't you?
Oh, I thought.
You came up.
I thought Josh Berry did something. I thought Josh Berry did something. I was like, really, what?
I'm saying, didn't you come up with Drivers Only broadcast?
Yeah, we did come up with Drivers Only.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I don't remember exactly how that conversation started. I thought she was telling me something else. Drivers Only, yeah, that started because we were just talking at a Fox dinner one night about going into the booth and they were like, well, let's do it.
This is like 7 years ago, though, because I think that was our 7th one.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
But yeah, I mean, that was like my free training ground to learn how the booth works. So that worked out pretty good. It turned into my next job profession.
Next job.
I think one of the funniest ones was Holsevar.
No.
Because Carson does a good job like being pretty entertaining when they give him a mic, but he's interviewing Kyle Busch about the him and Ricky going after it, and he's like, obviously you could tell Carson didn't want to ask him. He's like, hey man, I know you know this job. I know you know the deal. I gotta ask you, anything more on you and Ricky? Kyle's like, I'm ready to go today. He's like, okay, see you later. Like he did not.
I'm fairly certain it was Justin Allgaier that he was interviewing, but it looked like they were on. It looked like he was. I mean, he had to be 2 feet tall at least. I didn't realize he was that tall.
He's Michael Waltrip height.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's why we did so many features with the two of them, because like they just matched.
They're eye to eye.
They're eye to eye. Not many people Michael is eye to eye with.
No.
But anyway, back to the racing side for Josh Berry. Just once again, like really performing very well consistently.
Yeah, and I spoke to Rodney some, and I think they're just hitting their stride, right? And they've finally figured out and calmed down. I think for Josh, there was a lot of pressure getting in the car, getting going, trying to go out and live up to, the things that he thought he wanted to do in the race car. But it's just, you got to get into a rhythm. You got to get in and be comfortable with the car and get used to the things that you need. Crew chief driver relationship is a I mean, that's a learning process of what a driver likes. How does the crew chief understand the reactions that come with the driver and the tone of his voice and all those different things. And I think they're finally settling in on what Josh likes and able to communicate that back and forth. But Rodney loves Josh Berry. I mean, he thinks the world of Josh. I've seen him drive our late models and he hasn't even run 30 Cup races yet. So we talked about this last week, and I think that there's a lot of room, for him to grow and get better. And I think he could be a winner. And I think it's they got to do what they can this year before the bottom falls out at SHR.
Yeah, he's talking about that. I think it's interesting if you're an owner or a partner or anyone watching the guys at SHR right now going through all the turmoil and still finding their way. I think you got to look at that and be like, okay, that's someone that I might really want to put in my race car or want to partner with, because even through all of it, because they're all young guys, they don't know what's coming next and might not be great for everybody. But if they're able to take this all in stride and be good at their job on Sundays, you got to look at that, put them in your race car.
Well, you brought me to it, the Stewart-Haas Racing news, and we are filming now at 2:30 in the day. So this official announcement or whatever's going to come out of the events at Stewart-Haas Racing has not fully come to fruition yet. Right. So we don't have all of the parameters of what's happening over there. But obviously, Kevin,
I know a guy,
is very connected to this organization and has a pretty good understanding of what's occurring.
Yeah, I think, and this has been well publicized as far as some of the things that the reporters have talked about. It seems like all the charters, it seems like 3 of the charters are going to get sold. I think that the 4th charter is kind of up in the air as to what happens with that 4th charter. It sounds like the Xfinity team could stick around on one side, but it sounds like Front Row Motorsports is going to wind up with one, 2311, Trackhouse. Those are all the rumors, right? Like you say, we're 2:30 in the afternoon speculating on what we think we know. But, I think it's just, it's unbelievable to me, really, that we went from forever to forward to for sale in 6 months. And it's just, I don't even know how you could possibly imagine sitting here today and thinking 6 months later that Stewart-Haas Racing is going to announce that they're basically
folding.
Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of that really when I went there in 2014, it was a brand new team. We had a lot of enthusiasm from the ownership group to build this team up into what turned into being a championship winning team, won a lot of races. But I had a great group of people. And I think the people around that 4-car over the last 10 years are really what held that company together. Mm-hmm. I think that company was held together by the success of the 4-car, Rodney Childers and that group of people. I think, once that backbone of all that kind of went away, I think, it started poking some holes in just the, what happens at the top side of the upper management and everything that goes with running a race team, top to bottom. And it's a full-time job. It's a 24/7 job. And it's not a knock on owners. Gene and Tony were great to me, but they're kind of hands-off owners and have people in place to do their jobs. And I think in today's day and age, you have to have people that are involved with the authority to do what they need to do with the people and the things inside of the company to make it run properly. And it's tough to see. I mean, there's a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into that organization, and the organization did a lot for me personally. But I truly believe that with, while we were exiting and looking back on it and saying, okay, what would you do to Stewart-Haas Racing? I think that it wouldn't have been a hard fix because you have a lot of people. It's just structure, organization, and management that could have pushed it forward to make it right.
You were obviously hugely instrumental in the success of the race organization. You were a part of it as well. What are some of the positive memories and things like that will stay with you? Because I don't want to completely drag this down, but
that place for a time was the cool guys' garage. It was so much fun being there, the people there, and we grew. I mean, when I was there, we were a 3-car team. and then Kevin got there, and we expanded, and then we got the F1 team, and we expanded some more. So I was able to see a lot of that. The coolest thing about SHR was a lot of those people were there from the Haas racing days. So a lot of those people never won until Tony got there. And then Tony got there and it changed the culture. And then we went through another culture change when Kevin got there. We won a lot again. And I think we were always like us against everyone else. Like we were getting engines, chassis, and a lot of things from Hendrick. But we always felt like, we're better than them.
Yeah.
And we always felt like we'd go toe-to-toe. That was just how our mentality was. We didn't care about anything outside of those walls. And we did that.
I think the F1 team had a little bit to do with it because I honestly believe that Gene's more interested in the F1 team than he is the NASCAR team. And I think, a lot of that NASCAR interest depended on, Tony and his side making sure that the performance of the cars was where it needed to be. And I think over the last couple of years when the performance of the cars wasn't what it was, I just don't believe that Gene was having as much fun watching his car struggle. And I think that's why he initiated that partnership with Tony Stewart to get his cars running better because he wanted to have more fun. And it's more fun when you run good, right? Because when Haas started, they didn't run good.
Right.
And they brought Tony Stewart over and it fixed the culture and it fixed the performance. And we, won championships and won races and did all the things that we needed to do. But when that went away and there was no road to making that better for Gene to, be attached to something that was winning anymore. I think he, if he's going to lose, I think he'd rather go to the F1 race and lose than he would lose at the NASCAR race.
So what does this mean moving forward? How do you keep everyone motivated for the season at hand? And also now you're going to have a lot of really viable options on the table in the future, whether it's drivers, crew chiefs, road crew, mechanics, pit crew. This is going to be interesting to see how the remainder of this season goes.
Well, it's going to be a war for the people, the good people. The good people, it's going to be a war between all the top teams in a contest to see who can get the best people that are within SHR. There are a lot of good people within SHR, and people are hard to come by. Good engineers, good crew chiefs, good management, all those things exist at SHR. And every team in the garage wants them because they want a proven commodity that they don't have to develop, that they can bring into their organization and make an immediate impact. There's a lot of those people that are within SHR still. I think a lot of people are just going to say, screw it. You guys bailed out on me. If I have a contract, sue me. And I think they're going to go start looking for jobs. And I think the ones who don't have contracts are going to go start looking for jobs. I think the people who have years left on their contract is saying, hey, you might work on this fourth team that might be left or not left. We don't really know that at this point at 2:40 in the afternoon. Or stay and work on the Xfinity team that they may or may not have. But I mean, who's going to want to do that, right? I mean, you're at the point where you've basically folded everything that you have and you want to keep these little pieces because most likely you just can't get rid of them all, or you want to keep them for whatever reason. I don't know. But who's going to want to work in that environment? You obviously don't want to be there. And I think for the good people, I think they're going to go on down the road.
Yeah. It's a tough situation for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, it's tough. The good people, there's a lot of late models out there that could use some good hands working on them. But the good people are going to find places to go.
Easy.
They always do. There's at least 3 graduates from Stewart-Haas that are Cup crew chiefs right now. One being Cliff Daniels, who is a champion. He was at Stewart-Haas with us. There's a lot of people. So people leave there and go off and have a successful career. So that's not going to be a question. Where everything ends up, like Kevin was saying, that's going to be it. And I remember when MWR was shutting down, and I remember the people there and asking them, like, how's it going? Like, how are you? They're like, I mean, it sucks, but like, we're just enjoying it. Like, we love each other as a group, and we're just riding this thing out together. And most of us know where we're going next, and some of you don't, and everyone just kind of figures it out. But
that's the way you want it to work out.
That's the way you want it to work out.
You want it to work out so that everybody says, hey, let's just stick together. We all have a job. We're going to go do this next. But for the people who are like not included in that little clique, and if you don't have the people outside of that clique to do all the other things within the organization, like drive the truck or take the show cars or run the sponsorship department or whatever that may be, it becomes hard, right? Like that little clique sometimes doesn't realize all the things that it takes around them to make everything go, because it takes everything to make those cars go around the racetrack. But it's going to be it's going to be an uphill battle for SHR after this announcement.
And for the drivers in particular, we were just talking about Josh Berry. He's probably known about this for a little while, that something like this could be happening. Perhaps these drivers now are even feeling like they're racing for a new job. I mean, there's going to be a lot of team owners watching them with a closer eye, knowing that they could be free agents at the end of the year.
Well, they've definitely all had pretty good performance, for the circumstances that they had to be. I mean, they're 100% aware of the circumstances that they're living. We've heard them talk about it. We've heard the drivers talk about the uncertainty, and they just need to go do their job. And they've all been doing their job for the most part here and there. Josh Berry's done great the last few weeks. We've seen Noah. Do a great job, from the beginning of the year. Chase Briscoe's been up and down. Ryan Preece has been up and down. So, yeah, it's a tough environment to work in, and I think for the drivers, it's going to be an interesting, silly season for the drivers because of the fact that all this stuff is breaking loose so early. You've got some guys in the Xfinity Series that are probably ready to move up. So there's going to be a couple people that get moved out.
You look at Michael McDowell. And
looks pretty smart, doesn't he?
He looks like a genius. He got his stuff done. He's set. Yep. And so they obviously know what they're doing. But, if I'm an owner or a team manager or whatever, Chase Briscoe, does the Mahindra tractor sponsorship go with you? Like, now you got to look at, all right, what also are you bringing to the table? Yeah. It's not just about you being a great driver and a winning driver. Like, how much finances do you have to help support this program?
Well, think about this. When I retired last year, Mobile One went to Toyota. There's a few races left at SHR, but the majority of their program went to Toyota. Yep. Hunt Brothers Pizza went to Penske. Mm-hmm. Sunny D's been,
it's
everywhere else.
It's on the 47 too. Like,
and Busch Light went to Ross Chastain.
Yep.
Ford has just said, I think that was another key factor in this whole thing. Ford saying that, they're not going to do another deal with Stewart-Haas Racing, and went to Front Row. So you don't have any of the manufacturer money.
Right.
I mean, you're talking piles of money that have been redistributed from just the 4-car. Now you're gonna do it again.
It's a tough circumstances for a lot of people. We'll continue to follow that story as we know more information. The other story we've been following that has progressed since the last time we all met here on the pod was Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who was slapped with a $75,000 fine for the incident between him and Kyle Busch. I know you have spoken publicly on this already up in the booth with Clint and Mike, but what do you think about this? Because it's an interesting dichotomy with this.
Yeah, that's a big word, but
can you spell that for us real quick?
Yeah, spell that for us.
You know what it means. I can spell it.
No, I think it's I'm of the opinion that NASCAR has to live on both sides of the fence here. I'm of the opinion that, as rough and tumble and edgy as NASCAR acts and wants to be in certain departments, you have to be the exact opposite in the other departments. So you have corporate America that you have to keep happy on one side. With the $75,000 fine, we're not going to tolerate that. And on the other side, it's like, hey, this is awesome. We're going to promote it. It's the greatest thing that happened to the sport. And it was a great moment for, our sport. And it's no different than the NBA. It's no different than the NFL. They're going to promote it. They're going to fine it. And that's the way that you run professional sports organizations, whether you like it or not.
There you have it. What do you think about it?
Hell yeah, brother. That's just how it is. It's entertainment, and I know like some of the guys are mad that he's got fined $75,000. Then we're gonna promote it. Well, here's the thing. If we don't show what happens, all of it, then we're not gonna be able to show you, which means your star power is gonna go down because we don't have as many people or whatever eyeballs on it. That was gonna be one of the moments of the year in sports. Is that clip. And it was all over everything.
Everywhere. Yep.
And I think the last time we had something like that was when Ross Chastain did the Hail Melon. Yeah. Right? It was all over everything. So, yeah, and then we made a rule for that. We didn't fine him, but we made a rule that you can't do it, right? So, like, these are the things that happen. Every other sport, if you get in a fight, you get fined. They made a 30 for 30 on Malice at the Palace.
What was that?
Malice at the Palace, which was the big fight between the Detroit Pistons and I think it was the Pacers, like back in the 90s. Okay. And like they've made story after story about that. You guys got suspended, but they made a lot of money off of it anyway. So
yeah, and look, I had a fund every year. We'd save $50,000 because on those years when it wasn't going bad, I would cause chaos intentionally.
Would you pay the fines yourself? Okay.
Yep.
Is that how it
paid-
typically
yep,
works?
I paid them all, and we would set aside money because if you needed to do something like that, you just did it and you paid the fine. It was part of the show, and it was part of keeping yourself relevant.
Just so everyone knows, Big Country is selling T-shirts. I say
Saw
get
that.
off.
I
They say get off
reposted those, yeah.
this
I
truck.
saw the t-shirt.
I
Love
bought
it.
one. Big Country.
Yeah.
I love you, big guy.
Yeah.
I was talking to Kelly, Mike Kelly, and then before Ricky got in, I said, hey, next time you guys want to go off and do that, you might want to bring more people. Kelly's like, yeah, we may need to wait maybe earlier in the week before the big guys show up. You know what I mean? It's funny.
Yes. What a week it's been for Big Country. He's been front and center. Lots of attention on him.
Stenhouse still needs to get rid of those shorts. So
No, those shorts he needs to put them up for auction, like Bob said.
I would definitely sell them.
I
I
heard
would
him.
not wear them publicly anymore.
You wouldn't wear them
Kevin's
anyway.
still fixated on the shorts.
The
I love it.
chubbies.
Shorts are terrible.
They're good shorts.
All right. Speaking of short, it's time for Mamba's social sips.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yep. Yeah. You're up. We didn't even talk about Gateway, but we're going there next. We'll talk about our
We'll
picks,
bring it
but
back around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time for your sips.
Welcome to your favorite segment of the
It's debatable.
Happy Harvick podcast. Debatable. This week, we are going to go watch some Xfinity racing with Austin Hill and Cole Custer. Let's break down kind of what happens here a little bit. They are racing hard on a restart, and this is after they're already in the wall. So basically, Cole they door each other, cuts the right front of the 21. Austin Hill goes into turn 1, and Cole has his thumb out the window right now. So Cole's getting turned after they all hit the wall, and he's just one hand driving it. Thanks, buddy. Thumb out the window. I've never seen anyone do that. I thought it
Yeah.
was pretty impressive.
And
It is.
I was watching the race during this moment, and I don't really know. Maybe something else happened earlier in the race, but something just absolutely triggered because I didn't feel like that was really all Cole's doing when all this happened right there. I mean, they were racing, but it didn't feel like it was to the magnitude that Austin Hill had kind of thrown a fit to. So
Yeah.
he just basically downshifted, floored it, and drove him off the racetrack. So I would venture to say there'll be some sort of reaction to that because it's just a I would call that a malicious act.
A malicious act.
Is
That's a word.
that too harsh?
No, I mean it was thought of. He knew it was
Premeditated.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is like so he cuts the tire down. They just kind of. I didn't think that was a big deal. Well, then when it went down and they wreck, Cole is now mad. He don't know why he's getting wrecked, right?
Yeah.
Austin felt like Cole doored him. They go down the backstretch. The caution is not out yet to this point, and Austin just keeps his foot in it and wrecks him.
Well, he actually gassed back up and
Right.
drove into him.
Right. A lot of people were on social being like, he should be suspended. And they're using words that are like, I'm like, this is a bit much. This is racing. Like, I don't think he should be suspended.
I did do that one time.
Which part?
The wrecking someone like that.
Yeah.
Wrecking just like
I did that one time. I think it was 2005 or so.
Or so.
Did you
I
get
think
suspended?
I don't remember exactly what I did, but Kyle Busch cleared himself. He cleared himself, and I don't remember everything that had happened up before that point, but he cleared himself off a turn 4 at Dover and ran across the front of my nose and crashed us both into the wall, and I just downshifted until the cars wouldn't
Wouldn't
go
stop anymore.
Just-
Where'd you go?
I just left my foot on the floor and drove him as far as I could drive him. And we round up around the corner into middle of turns 1 and 2 against the inside wall. And we got called to the trailer.
Several well-documented run-ins with you, too. You guys are
I
all
remember
good now,
I was sitting up in the lounge and Kyle comes up in the lounge and he is screaming all the way up the coach. He tried to kill me. He tried to kill me. So
That's the stuff that I'm saying. Like, that's what's being said on Twitter is like, like you trying to use. I'm like, guys, this
Yeah.
like, he didn't write. First off, he didn't. Context matters. He didn't right rear him. When you right rear someone, I think at that point like gloves are off.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I just didn't think it was. Worth
we just
that.
turn into complete idiots when we get inside the
Well, you're idiots before you get inside the car.
Yeah.
But
that too.
secondly, on a more bright note,
Positive note.
yeah, positive note. Chase Elliott wins in the 17 in the Xfinity
Great
Series.
strategy.
Great strategy. I love seeing the 17 in victory lane. Obviously, Ricky Hendricks paint scheme for when he raced. This burnout. This is
Heck of a
really
burnout.
why we brought it up because the burnout was amazing.
It was.
He did it
Yeah.
was like a 720 down the front stretch, grabbed another gear, came back across. Kevin's
go.
counting.
Did he only do 2 or 3?
He did 3, right?
Yeah,
We didn't get one.
360 and 360, 720.
That's what I
why
said.
I was thinking
Oh.
it might be.
Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't
maybe a
get
little
one on
more
the
than
cup side, so this one
But
definitely.
either way,
priority.
we're not going to
Yeah.
give it a 10.
No.
No, because
No?
it's not the world's best burnout.
No, it's
Okay,
not.
we're
But we're
still
going to
not
give it a
at 10.
9.8. I think it was. I think that was pretty good.
Wait, so you saying that he said this one's better than Keselowski's?
Keselowski's wasn't good. Logano's was good.
No, Logano. Sorry,
Logano's was good. Yeah.
So Logano's the top still.
Yes, I think
Right?
Joey has
I
highest
think
marks.
so. I think Logano's probably top. So he's just below whatever I rated him.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
So this one specifically, like Joey's was cool because he like hung the left front and just kept. It
I
in
just
one
like the
spot.
fact that I was close enough to it that it rattled the windows in the booth.
Oh,
Logano's.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
So
that is fair.
that was good burnout though.
That's a good burnout.
I enjoyed it.
Congratulations.
Good job out of you, Chase Elliott. All right, time now for our last call. And we're going to talk a little bit about Gateway here and give our picks who we believe can get it done. None of us were right last week, unfortunately.
No, I think I picked Reddick.
Yeah.
I always
and-
forget who I picked.
You always pick a Toyota, so just go with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you picked any.
I'm going to go off my rocker this week.
Ooh, what you got?
I'm going to go with Kyle Busch.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, he won this race a year ago and led a lot of laps, started on the pole. That's a good choice.
Yeah, and I think, gosh, I just think something good has to happen for those guys, and I think if it's
Yeah.
going to happen, it's got to happen this week. So I'm pulling for him.
Okay. I'm picking the other Kyle Larson. I think he will be on a little bit of a redemption tour after the disappointment of the weekend.
He's trying to think of who he's going to pick.
He hasn't decided yet who he's got. I'm going.
See, who drives the 24 48? Who is it?
You know
Let's hear
what? I am gonna go with Alex Bowman in the 48.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like that. For one, they need it, but two, I think they've been stringing together a lot of speed.
that's
But-
the thing, right? Like he's sneaky quiet right now
Yeah,
because you kind of you would think, well, you don't hear much about Alex Bowman because they haven't won,
right.
but they have been in contention, just not up in the front 2 or 3 spots.
They've been like 4 through 6.
That's right. But when you look at his finishes, you're like, oh, well, that's pretty good. And it's kind of the same scenario that Chase Elliott was until he won, right? Because we were just on Chase Elliott every week about, they aren't doing this, they aren't doing that. And then they win. And Alan Gustafson reminds you of his running position throughout all the races and his finishes and his average finish. Very much the same situation with 48 right now.
Yeah, they had some good energy on the pit road. I feel like them boys
Good energy.
got a little swagger coming back.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay, so there's the picks for Gateway. And you actually have our most recent winner on your Thursday show, right?
I do. Yeah, Christopher Bell is going to be on the show, so I'm looking forward to that because I think Chris Bell gets a bad rap
For being like boring or something.
Yeah, they talk about being boring, and he's just overshadowed so much with all the things that he does. And I'm a Christopher Bell fan. I think that
Same.
that he's a great kid. He's fast. He's in contention. He's dug himself out of a hole the last 2 years, and their cars are fast all the time. They've had 2 months of terrible luck, and now he winds up in victory lane. In typical Christopher Bell fashion, it's in a rain-shortened race, and then it's he shouldn't have won. He didn't do this. This doesn't matter. And it's like, well,
He's
guess
gone to
what? The guy just won a Coke 600, and he's got a ring.
He's
So
gone to the
That's
Final
right.
Four
Crown Jewel
twice.
win.
I know. And he just does not get the credit that he deserves. And he's been very vocal that he wants to be the leader and he wants to step up and do the things that it takes to be the leader, because let's face it, Denny Hamlin's going to be, at some point, be out of the mix. And Christopher Bell is going to be at Joe Gibbs Racing for a long time.
Yep. Yeah, we look forward to that conversation, and we look forward to the race this week. Make sure you keep following us on social media. Harvick Happy Pod for all of the happenings, and we'll see you guys after next week.
Yeah.